I've been Prime Minister of this country for just over 10 years. In this job, in the world of today, I think that's long enough for me, but more especially for the country. And sometimes the only way you conquer the pull of power is to set it down.
Tony Blair making an announcement that was no big surprise, that he's going to step down as Prime Minister of that country, and there will be some change there. This has been the President's most staunch ally in the war against terror, Charles.
He remains so, and he'll probably be succeeded by someone, although he's extremely opaque, George Brown, and nobody quite knows what he thinks, who'll probably remain a steady course. But Blair leaves unpopular, but I think he'll be remembered very, very highly in history. Firstly, economically, he pulled the British left out of the socialist gutter and had tremendous success, low unemployment, inflation, and growth, a strong pound. And everybody in Britain recognizes that. They are not going to return to the old socialist past. And I think even on foreign affairs, Iraq has made him unpopular, but it's going to wear away. After all, in 500 years, the Brits have colonized and conquered and been chased out of more places than you and I can name. Iraq, they'll be out of Iraq in a year or two, and if you compare it with the losses in the world wars, even in colonial wars, the British have lost under 150 in the 5 years of the Iraq War. Britain will be out within a year or two. Blair will be remembered for his economics and for a very sort of idealistic foreign policy that will be remembered, I think, very well.
Maura, what do you think?
Yeah, and I think, you know, Blair actually followed in a long tradition of British prime ministers to be strong allies of the United States. That wasn't anything unusual, but it definitely cost him. I mean, he is leaving with Iraq a huge shadow over his legacy, at least in the short term. And I would agree with Charles. Historians might rethink things after we see how Iraq turns out and how the British economy continues. And certainly on that front, on the domestic front, he leaves some pretty strong.
A lot of people believe
legacy.
that Blair is much more popular in this country than he is in his own, of course.
I think that's true. I mean, you see the poll numbers, and to the extent you can believe polls, that's true. And I happen to believe these numbers. He's very popular. He's very popular with me, I'll tell you that. You know,
you're a big fan, aren't you?
I am a big fan of Tony Blair. Look, when he came in, he recognized that the most important thing for an English prime minister is to maintain and nurture the special relationship with the United States. And he's done a magnificent job on it. The good news about Gordon Brown, who will replace him as prime minister, who's now the Treasury Secretary, or as they say, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, he's pro-American too. And everybody I've talked to, Brits who are both conservatives and liberals, say Gordon Brown is much more pro-American and will be protective of the special relationship than the the Conservative Party leader now, David Cameron, who's pretty much of a wet and has spoken about really about putting some distance between the United States and Great Britain, which would be a mistake, I think.
Look, the special relationship is great as long as it's working. I mean, President Bush has had the exact same problem as Tony Blair. I mean, he went into a war that didn't turn out the way he wanted to, and so far it's unclear to see how the ending can be successful. And the same exact problem is happening to Bush.
But in the British perspective, it's a lot smaller and more peripheral an enterprise than the war is here. And that's why I think its memory will fade away rather quickly. Here it won't, because of our losses and how much effort that we have spent, and also the repercussions. But I think Blair was a remarkable ally. And not because he was a poodle, as everybody accused him. He believed in this stuff before the Bush administration had come into office. He spoke about bringing down dictators in the Balkans. He went after Milosevic, and he mentioned Hussein in the late 90s. So it wasn't as if he followed us. Essentially, we followed him.
Yeah, if somebody was a poodle, Bill Clinton was his poodle in the Balkans, because it was Blair who really got Clinton to intervene against Milosevic.
Rare to see a politician who takes a stand and then never wavers from it. Yeah.
You know, the other thing is he failed also in getting President Bush to conduct the war the way that he would have. That's another kind of tragedy for him.
Coming up.